On behalf of my family and our board, I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for being part of this event tonight. And now I'd like to introduce John Mundy, who was in the video, who did back in April, he called me and asked if he could do this caddy program at Garden City Country Club. And he showed up at 7 in the morning and talked to about 45, 50 caddies about melanoma awareness and prevention. And he's just going to talk a little bit about awareness and prevention himself and what happened to him. John?
Hello, I'm John Mundy. I grew up in Garden City. I grew up right off the 3rd green here, and I caddied here for 17 years, from 1989 to 2006, only stopping when my son was born. And I told the guys in my foursome how long I caddied here, and they were very excited to have that type of experience. I just want to take this moment to apologize for misleading them that I'd be a good golfer. On October 18th, my wife asked me to do some plumbing on our house that we purchased 3 years ago now. My dad taught me exactly what to do in this situation, which means I can put it off for another 3 years. But on this day, I jumped in the car and I went to the hardware store, and I bought the material. After a few minutes, I was working on the plumbing, and I encountered this rusty screw, and I couldn't get it off. So after about 20 minutes, I began to sweat, and I took my shirt off, which is something else I don't do very often. Moments later, my son comes up with his tool belt and his tools asking to help. And I always say no, it's too dangerous, but on this day I said yes. And I promised myself I'd be careful. Minutes later, he's wiping my inside of my left shoulder blade with a tissue trying to get a goopy off. Now, I don't know what a goopy is in his mind, so I wanted to see, and when I saw what I saw, it was like the blood had just drained from my body. I couldn't really see it, so I called my wife up, and I said, you know, this mole, is it different colors? Is it a different shape? Is it unusually large? And she kept, yes, yes, and yes. And when I kind of came to, I was putting my sneakers on, and she asked me where I was going, and I said, I'm going to the emergency room to get this taken care of. She got concerned. I've never been to the doctor before. I've never taken medicine. You know, why are you being so vigilant? You know, and I said, you know, there's this girl named Mollie. And I told her Mollie's story, and she became taken back and saddened. And she said, wow, you know, how well did you know her? And I said, I didn't. I never met her. I just know her story. So 1 week later, I was diagnosed with melanoma, and as the doctor is telling me what I have, I'm writing everything down, because you don't always comprehend what the doctor's telling you at this point. And when I hung up, I took a breath, I looked at the note, and it said, you have melanoma, stage 1, you have 95% chance of recovery. You're very lucky you caught it early. So just one surgery later, they now consider me melanoma-free, which I'm very pleased about. Now, we're all going to have defining moments in our life, and sometimes these moments impact us positive and sometimes negative. This day I consider very positive. And as a result, I often reflect on the actions taken and the words spoken that day. And the pivotal moment to me is always saying to my wife that I never met Mollie, I just knew her story. And knowing her story is why I'm alive today. Now, the chance of me doing work around the house, combined with taking my shirt off and my son finding it and me allowing it to work, are just astronomical when you put them all together. But the chance of me knowing what to do the second I saw this, they're 100%. And they're 100% because the Begain family took a difficult and challenging defining moment in their life and turned it into something very positive in the Mollie's Fund. And now I don't have the words for the Begain family, so Jack and Maggie and Kara and Julie and John and Mollie, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it. just want to thank everyone in this room as well. Your support has provided Mollie's Fund with the ability to educate people through this remarkable program, and for that I'm forever grateful. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce Dr. Jim Goyos, who's been with us from the beginning. As I said, he spoke at our first and third outings back in 2001 and 2003. Jim is on our advisory board. He volunteers his time to speak at all of our symposiums. We have 2 this year, and we normally do, well, up until this year, 1 a year. He's a good guy, a good doctor that we've recommended a number of patients to, including John Mundy.
Well, thanks for having me back for the 9th edition of this outing, which has become something that I put on my calendar every year now so that I don't miss it. It's a remarkable testament to the folks here in Garden City that you'll come back for this outing year after year, even in bad economic times and when there's probably many other things you'd like to do. And that's very much appreciated. The topic that I'm supposed to tell you about is what's going on in the research for both the cure and the prevention of melanoma, which is actually a very complicated topic, but can be boiled down into relatively easy terms. Melanoma is one of those diseases that's a paradox. It's a cancer that is rapidly increasing in incidence, while most other cancers are either leveled out or actually decreasing in incidence. The incidence has gone up dramatically over the last about 20 to 30 years, which is unprecedented. Most cancers slowly change their incidence over time. Melanoma is the one exception. It's now the 4th most common cancer in men and the 5th most common cancer diagnosis in women. And so it's become a real problem very quickly before a lot of the infrastructure could have been developed over the years to both combat it but also to educate the public. It's a paradox because when it comes to the study of cancer, many of the greatest cancer researchers in the world consider themselves melanoma researchers. It's a disease that lends itself to intense study. We've figured out pretty much most of the genetics and the DNA abnormalities that take place to actually develop a melanoma, and we're currently building different agents to combat it, small molecules that can go in and take out the tumor before it can advance or it can grow. And almost every major institution in the country, MD Anderson, Memorial Sloan Kettering, our institute in New Jersey, as well as many European countries in Australia as well, a lot of melanoma in Australia, have been combating this for many years and are starting to come out with these very, very sophisticated weapons to deploy against this extremely difficult disease. The average age of a person who gets melanoma in this country is 45, which is a startling number for a lot of people to realize. Another way you can sort of look at it is more women will actually, under the age of 40, will die of melanoma this year than breast cancer. Breast cancer tends to be a disease of postmenopausal women. So melanoma is a very serious disease. It's also extremely difficult to treat once it metastasizes and once it becomes more advanced, like almost all cancers. We have been doggedly going after it. Research funding has gone up dramatically, and we actually are making some progress. But the other paradox about this disease is that it doesn't have decades and decades of dedicated people, generations that have had the disease in their family for many years, like breast cancer, and prostate cancer, and lung cancer. So it's a relatively new disease with relatively new people who are discovering that it's part of their family. Because of that, one of the things that is always in short supply when it comes to cancer research in general and melanoma specifically is the preventive part of it and the education, which is where Mollie's Fund actually comes in, along with a number of other initiatives in the country. If you think about it, about 20, 25 years ago, when I was a surgical resident back in the early 80s, melanoma was quite rare. We would rarely see it. I trained in Connecticut and in New Jersey, and it was a rare patient would come in and you'd say, oh, look, there's an interesting finding. It's one of those rare melanomas. Now, just our institution alone in New Jersey sees between 300 and 400 new cases every year. I saw 8 today of the disease. So it's gone up extremely rapidly in incidence. But the important thing to remember is that something that goes up that rapidly, we should be able to push it back down almost as rapidly. If we figure out what's causing this great increase in risk, we should be able to combat that particular problem and push it back down. And we pretty much have figured it out. It's excessive sun exposure. It's a feeling and a sense in the country that having a deep dark tan in your skin and going out in the sun and doing a lot of recreation in the sun became a good thing as opposed to a bad thing. And for most of human civilization, being pasty white and having that alabaster skin was what was a sign of higher society or more affluent individuals, while the people who worked out in the fields and the laborers were the ones with the dark skin with the dark tans. And that completely switched in the 1940s and 50s, mainly in Europe and in this country. And that has subsequently led to this dramatic increase in the number of skin cancers and specifically melanoma. Changing that, just like we stopped cigarettes from being so romantic, where every single, you see Mad Men on television, everybody smokes cigarettes no matter what they're doing. Now that's become you're almost a pariah if you smoke cigarettes. Same thing can be and should be instilled in people that deep dark tans and excessive sun exposure is not something that you should idolize or should seek to pursue, but moderate exposure to the sun, good education, knowing what to look for in your skin, and knowing that this is one of the most preventable cancers that we have in human disease. So Mollie's Fund and funds like this are extraordinarily important because the federal government does a very bad job at education and training. That's not the focus of most of the research dollars that go into it. State level is spotty at best. I know New York and New Jersey are actually pretty good, but most other states aren't. And so it comes down to private organizations and funds such as this. And certainly this is one of those situations where approximately 300 people every year get together and have an event like this, which pretty much starts the funding cycle for this event, which has then led to literature and movies and DVDs that have been distributed. I've gone as far as I was in California at the John Wayne Cancer Institute out in Los Angeles, and they had literature from the Mollie Gain Foundation at the institute there that they had been giving out to their people. So even though you are a relatively small foundation compared to how foundations go, you have a very long reach and a lot of effect on patients and people all across the country and probably across the world at this point. I haven't been to Europe yet to see a couple of their melanoma centers there, but my guess is that the translations into French and Italian are coming, correct? Yeah, so keep up the good work. This is the kind of work that needs to be done and almost always can only be done by private foundations and people who really care and have a stake in this. And we who do the research and treat the patients and try every day to defeat this disease really do appreciate it. Thank you.